How does the anxiety and the ill health is promoted? You go to any hospital, the kind of food that is being sold in the hospital, you put a coin and get the thing. Say apple juice. I saw a video recently where a factory which produces tons and tons of apple juice, there is not a single apple used there. So there is not a single apple, but it is sold as an apple. This pharmaceutical industry, the food industry, supported by the healthcare industry, unfortunately. They're all making it a business rather than healthcare. Leaving that aside, we will not talk about that. Awareness can be brought by small way of injecting these issues. Say, for example, a student is, putting the head down and unable to keep her head high in the class or a ball. So I would go around, put my hand on the shoulder and say, okay, you are not well. What is the trouble? I could not sleep. Okay, let us meet 5 minutes, 2 minutes, not broad. Don't want to be in the lecturing mode. They don't work. We have to be very conscious of the emotional quotient and say, okay, now you're not well. What is the problem like? Is there anything that you want to discuss with me? I don't want to give an advice which you don't want. If you want to share with me, just tell me what is your problem. I may not have a solution, but the thing is that, okay, somebody is concerned. The parents will tell, okay, you should study hard. Somebody else will say, okay, you should stand first. Somebody else will say you should get merit seat. Somebody else will say you should get a starting salary of 10 lakh per year at least, otherwise it's a shame. But nobody talks about the agony that the student is going through, a teenager is going through. Nobody, in the sense, very few people. They're all having a quantified objective rather than the emotional objective. So if you're able to connect with the students, that itself is a great gain. Now, let me take some simple things. We all say, okay, there is a traffic bottleneck. There's a bottleneck in the progress. The word is bottleneck. We can demonstrate this one in the classroom if you want. So we take a bottle with the class and we know what is a bottleneck. No worries. So if I say, okay, this is the bottle and this is the neck of the bottle. What is this neck of the bottle? It has got a purpose. If it didn't have this neck, if it has to be cut off at this level, the bottle was only this much, like a cylinder. Can I pour this water? The whole thing will go down. So what we can do is that take such a bottle, which generally throw away after use, fill it with water, make one student be the timekeeper, other student a whistle blower, whatever, not whistle blower in the sense that we use it, the judge, another keeping note of the things, pour water. Or for example, you can use even a different bottle. Like the advertisement say, okay, drop by drop. This is a washing liquid for the vessels. If it did not come drop by drop, we wouldn't have been able to use it. The advertisement say every drop carries so much of power to cleanse it. So there is a reason, there is a purpose for making this bottleneck. The bottleneck is by design. Bottleneck is not in a negative connotation that we generally use. And the bottleneck, once it comes, if you don't have it, one problem. Another, if you remove the bottleneck, the water will just flow out. And after it flows out of the bottle, after the neck, it is free to move around whatever it wants. So it is not, it's a one-time restriction by design for a good purpose. Like while teaching, if you don't use bottleneck, if it is just a fire hose, we can't drink from a fire hose. We want drop by drop, we want a normal tap. We can't use a fire hose to water our garden. We need sprinklers for irrigation. So let us consider this another meaning, another aspect, another paradigm and the perspective of this common term that we use day to day, bottleneck. Now let us consider another term which has become quite famous for the past 3 months. Ever since the Pahalgam attack, this term is being used, like Himant Bishwas of Assam, Chief Minister, chicken neck. Now, chicken neck and bottleneck are different. Chicken neck is like a clogged filter. It doesn't allow the traffic to go smoothly because it has narrowed down. And if it doesn't flow smoothly, then what happens? It is not by design, it is accidental, it is contextual. It is not created for a purpose. Nobody wants a chicken neck. But our country, 7 states are separated by a chicken neck. We have to travel that chicken neck. So what happens? So how do we ensure that it is not clogged by the political influences, by any ill deeds, like terror attack maybe, or denying services? So it is a totally different issue. And let us consider another gadget that we already know quite well. Now, is this a bottleneck? No, this is not a bottleneck. Bottleneck also is created for a purpose. What we face in the road is an hourglass structure. There is good traffic for some time. Then there is a small patch where there is a big traffic. We are not able to move forward. Once that patch is over, we are able to move fast enough again. So the analogy of bottleneck that we use to show the traffic congestion is not really a bottleneck. And this kind of thing, instead of telling in words, we just say, take it and just show practically. And how all can we show it? We can do it in many ways. The other type of gadgets that I regularly use are placards. This we can use in many ways. Now here, 0, pink color. Both are significant. Other side, 1, blue color. Now having such placards, we can say, what is a binary number? Base of 2. For the binary number, I can again extend base of 8, which is not much used in the classes anyway. It is inside the computer, octal or hexadecimal numbers. Say 10, number of 10. So such cards, if we repeat, 1, 0, and 1, we go up to 9. We need 5 cards for that. The position values, we can make the students to spread around. Make a competition between 2 batches. Randomly selected, 5 students each. Give a number, binary number or a decimal number. The students can show their cards based on where they're standing from the most significant to the least significant position, and they show the thing. There is fun, there is learning, and there is something that is internalized. How much does it cost? Nothing. Paper cardboards students carry and a little stuff that we can put on that. Simple, reusable, and this can be used not just in the primary school. You can use it to show how the data flows from the server to the client. What is the latency? What is serialization? What is pickling? Why should we process as much data as possible in the server, not transfer the whole thing to the client and then processing it? What is the price that we pay? Huge amount of simulation. Understanding can happen. Then you don't have to go too much into the theory. Why should we need serialization? What is deserialization? What is the need to serialize? Because we keep telling, I don't have bandwidth. What is the meaning of bandwidth? We can just demonstrate with this kind of activity, students holding this kind of placards, roaming around the class, then there is no lethargy. People are involved. The last point I will mention, feedback loop. Celebrate failures. If a student is not able to answer a question, say, beautiful. Know that I know that you have not understood this. It's a feedback to me as a teacher that I have not been effective enough to explain how to correct it. How to correct it again, if you're able to do the evaluation dynamically, regularly, in a separate, those who are interested, I can discuss separately. Right now, we don't have the time, how it can be done with the modern technological context. Minute by minute, we can see which student is giving the right answer, which student is not giving the correct answer if you got internet. Nothing else, no other expenditure. And the students are able to do it on their computer. Won't work in lower classes, but higher classes, it works beautifully. Every couple of minutes, 5 minutes, I can monitor, or you can monitor, which student is not understanding what concept in the assignment that I given. Short assignments, small assignments. Then what we can do, we can pair the students who has understood, we can monitor and understand, writing a small little script, and who has not understood, we pair them. So there is a teacher student, there is a student student. When we pair them, if you ask them, okay, if there is a doubt, ask me. No student has got any doubt. They don't know what they don't know. If they seek help from your friends, group studies, no, that also doesn't work. Inverted classroom doesn't work in our context. But what does work is that the teacher is part of the whole process. If you're able to monitor as regularly as possible, minute by minute, at least day by day, we definitely can monitor. And if we can see the patterns of error the students make, we know which topic is not very clear to them. We can also find out which student has understood, which student has not understood. When a smart student, I don't say smart by any other connotation, every student is good. The student who has understood, in the process of clearing the doubts of another student, learns even better. And the student who has not understood has got another opportunity to learn. It's a win-win situation. And we reduce the competition, unwanted competition among students, increase collaboration. And these things are done randomly selected, good student, randomly selected, not as good student, if you want to go by the performance. So this also is something that works very well, and be open in the evaluation. The student should totally understand how he or she is evaluated. Use soft deadline. Don't be rigid about the deadlines. It doesn't work. What is the purpose? Purpose is learning. Purpose is not scoring and marking and telling, okay, you are A plus, you are C minus, or you are F. Failing somebody, passing somebody, that is all incidental. That is not important at all. Yeah, in the system, law system, we need it. We will use it. But excessive burden, excessive stress, oh, am I right or wrong? That is a concern, rather than have I understood or not. If you put pressure, then what happens? The reason, we create a reason for copying. We create a reason to outsource the thinking to the ChatGPT, cloud, or whatever tools that we have got. So let us go with that idea that students are here to learn, and whatever helps in learning, deadline or no deadline, this context or that context, we'll tune ourselves according to that. And there is no one rule. And let us all be clear about our position. And ultimately, it is learning that is the purpose. And learning is a system where teacher also learns, students also learn, parents also learn. Let us have a bright future. Let us again say prayers to that Vagdevi. Thank you very much. I'm happy to respond to any question from the audience.
Thank you so much about it. There was a question that one of the participants had. What is the difference between Gen Z, Gen Alpha? Is what you're saying only relevant to Gen Z, or is it also relevant to other generations? Is one question.
Gen Z, I mentioned because every 20 years is supposed to be a new generation. 20, 25 years. The general definition is 20 years. So that generation, some people say it is starting from 2006, some people say 2002, that apart. Majority of them are students in some institute. Otherwise, we are all lifelong students. So what applies to Gen Z applies to us also. It is not that it doesn't apply, but you are taking the main perspective of the teachers and parents, and to great extent to the student also, telling that how it applies. It is not that it doesn't apply to us, but depending upon our learning habits. It will apply partly, totally, fully, whatever it is. So it is not exclusive for Gen Z, because this context is not exclusive to Gen Z. There's distractions and this ultra processed food, thoughts, everything. It applies to every one of us in varying degrees.
Yes, Mr. Shmuel, please ask your question.
Okay. Thank you very much. Very interesting and insightful presentation. And I want to ask you a question. How hands-on approach in education can support improvement education of young people and students from poor and low socioeconomic groups of population?
Thank you, sir. Thank you for this very relevant and important question. Because majority of the
Thank you.
students are not the ones whom we meet in cities. Like the great work Vishwa organization is doing, we reach out to them. So we will have to tune ourselves, but the core approach will be identical. We may not have the technology that we have in the rural urban area. The facilities may not be there, but the main tool, that is the brain, the thinking process for the teachers and the students, they are everywhere. There is no scarcity of that. So if we embody a teaching point of view, it doesn't cost much to get these props, for example. It doesn't take much effort to note down the critical incidents or the stories that we can pick up. So in the classroom, the main thing is that if you're able to engage the students, if you can bring them out of their slumber, then definitely there are ways to engage with them to make the learning more, rather than chasing the marks, at least by spirit. It is definitely important. At my age, I can say don't chase money. But when I was in my 20s or teens, I definitely had a need to earn. Right now, I may not worry much about that. So irrespective of the context, we will not deny the cultures and the subcultures in that what will fit. There is no one rule fits all, but there is a general guideline to engage with the students, to be mindful about the situation, reach out to them, and devise your own thing. And if you want to look for stories, if you want to look for props, there is no death. If you've got a teaching mindset, it is a plenty in every walk of life. Every day we will discover something. And it works because I have also been engaging with very poor schools in rural areas. And there, what works in school in Bangalore doesn't work there. We have to take a different approach, and it does work, no doubt.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next question, please clarify PTI.
PTI.
Did you use that in the
No.
speech? No.
TPI.
Okay.
Teaching, TPV, sorry. I use a term called TPV, teaching point of view. Like I said, okay, we get a word called bottleneck. What is the teaching point of view there? Or you say, I find a bottle lying somewhere. If I find this bottle in the kitchen, used for cleaning the vessel, fine. Is it only for cleaning the vessel? Now, there are several teaching point of view that I can get from here. One is, your cooking is not complete unless you have cleaned the vessel. Before cleaning the vessel, I should not eat. If you go in that hygienic or healthcare perspective, okay, that is the thing. If you talk about the drop by drop, what is the need of that? So depending upon the context, this little bottle that I would throw away has got a teaching point of view. Let us consider the normal sewing thread that we use. Now, this one I can say that they're in so many colors. As a teacher, I would say, okay, I need 10 colors, 10 different colors. There is already a standard available. We can look at the standard. Don't invent what is already available. What is 0 to 9? The color standards are there. Black, brown, red, yellow. We generally use a formula for that. B.B. Roy of Great Britain had a beautiful wife, whatever it is. Okay, that is the short form that we are using. In the electrical engineering, when we want to see, the resistors used to be color-coded. We would know the value of a resistor by looking at the color. Now, that is an old memory from my teenage, reading the value of a resistor. But I don't have to forget, okay, that is reading the resistor. I can change that concept directly as a teaching point of view. If you go to the primary school, if you go to the class 2, class 3, the position value. So if you use the position value, I could give this bunch of threads to a student, to each student, okay, make the position well. So there is a teaching point of view. Experiencing the concept rather than listening to the lecture boredom. For example, you say, I just say, okay, I go to the class, I say that I'm aged, limited, and rare. In a chocolate box, I found this from a chocolate box. Now I use it in a class telling, okay, see the difference between you and me. There is a gap. Let us bridge this gap. Whatever it is, we can, use it in many ways. Or, as is it as an adjective? How does it apply? Is it permanent? What is the context? If I use it in a programming language, so how will I use this as a variable? There are several places I can use this simple thing, packing material, which otherwise would have gone to the dustbin. So there is a teaching point of view. Find an opportunity to convert whatever we find in the real life as a learning opportunity, teaching opportunity.
Okay, as a learning opportunity. Got it.
Yeah, the total thing is learning.
Yes.
But as a teacher, because I'm focusing mainly of this transfer of information, that's what I mean. You can call it learning point of view in a larger sense.
Okay. How can we distract engineering students, for that matter, so many students these days, from overusing the mobile phone?
Yes, it is an addiction, and de-addiction is a process. One thing, roam around very regularly in the class, have some ground rules right in the first class, what is allowed, what is not allowed, accepted by them. Violation, let us be clear, okay, this cannot be violated because there is some social responsibility. I cannot say I will fill kerosene in my car and drive around. It is my car. I got no liberty to do that because I will pollute the atmosphere. If one student becomes naughty, mischievous, he is disturbing other students who are interested to learn. So certain ground rules we can set mildly and emphasize that. We are not targeting a student, we are trying to correct the student, nudge. Then how can you use a mobile phone if there is an activity? The one thing which you can do, randomly pick a name to answer a question. Every 3 minutes, 4 minutes, I explain a concept. I say explain sorting. When I explain sorting, after 3-4 minutes, the recall is done in a couple of ways. One is you recall on your own, other is you answer a question. So instead of naming and shaming, I say, I got a random student is picked up, a 2-line program. So the students, nobody knows who will be called. I also don't know. As a teacher, I do not know who will be called. The brightest of the bright student will be called, or the dumbest of the dumb student. So they are aware that a question can come, and they'll come to the board and explain one thing. And when this question is asked, if he's not able to answer, don't shame him. Say, nice, you do not know, beautiful, excellent. Now we have got an opportunity to clear. It's a feedback mechanism as well. So one thing is that they know they can be called anytime, and you can also give a mark for that for the class participation. Again, it's another 2-3 lines of code. Yes, no, what answer he gave, what marks he can get. So there is also a measurement. There is quantified. The participation is quantified. That is one thing. And when we do this drama in the class, say nobody knows who will be a tailor master when he has to take the measurement of the shirt. Nobody knows who will have to cut the neck of the bottle. Nobody knows who will be the timekeeper, who will blow the whistle, who will mark. That is not known. Or who will march up and down in 3 rows or 3 columns, turn around. Who will have to get out of the class in this drama? Who will have to get in the classes? So a lot of role plays are possible. Suppose somebody says, okay, my weight is 80 kg. I said, okay, now lift that student in your hands. Can you do that? This girl says, okay, I'm 45. Now, can you do that? Somebody says, my waist is so much. Take the tape, measure, bring some fun in the class. Bring some physical activity in the, okay, one more thing what we can do is that, getting back to expanding that question, one thing that works quite well is that, okay, there is so much of noise in the class. People are distracted. Say, okay, take each other's pulse. You cannot count the pulse of a person without being mindful. You have to count. There is an activity. So that activity, it has distracted them from the distraction because for a minute or two, they have to count the pulse. Or say, okay, give some of the silly gadgets. There are many of them. that you can create. Okay, give a quiz. Okay, here is a gadget. Now, what is it? Say, what is it? Most students don't know what it is. Yes, but you are using it every day. How is it? It can be interpreted in multiple ways. In the physics class, I can say there is a coefficient of expansion. There's a there is a strip which has got two metals. So that, okay, I can explain physics. I can explain electricity. I can explain 10 different things with this simple gadget. It doesn't cost more than 10 rupees maybe. And this is there. If you're using an electric iron, it is there. If you're using a fridge, we have it. You're going to the refrigerator, the air conditioner, we have it. We have it in every day. So we are mapping the everyday experience into the concepts that we are explaining in maths or science or computer science or whatever it is, we're able to do that. And make those students to come over and explain this context in their recall mechanism. It is not in my words, their words. Imperfect, buggy, better. A perfect answer is not as good as an imperfect answer, because with an imperfect answer, there is a lot more to learn rather than just, vomiting out what is in the book.
Okay. At a time in India where the children are being given phones and iPads, where emotional regulation and mental well-being is important, not just knowledge. Uh, how do you balance it out? Like now, the question right now was about examining whether they have learned or not. Now, the question is, how does a school, how does a teacher balance between knowledge and emotional regulation and mental health well-being?
School, the child is in school for a limited period. The exposure available outside is far more than that. Influences, because in the classroom, there is a structure. Outside, there is no structure. What we pick up informally, unknowingly, gets deep into that without our knowledge. It has just caught us. So, what can we do in the campus? How does the anxiety and the ill health is promoted? You go to any hospital, the kind of food that is being sold in the hospital, you put a coin and get the thing. Say apple juice. I saw a video recently where a factory which produces tons and tons of apple juice, there is not a single apple used there. You can search, you will find it. So there is not a single apple, but it is sold as an apple. This pharmaceutical industry, the food industry, supported by the healthcare industry, unfortunately. They're all making it a business rather than healthcare. Leaving that aside, we will not talk about that. Awareness can be brought by small way of injecting these issues. Say, for example, a student is, putting the head down and unable to keep her head high in the class, or a boy. So I would go around, put my hand on the shoulder and say, okay, you're not well. What is the trouble? I could not sleep. Okay, let us meet 5 minutes, 2 minutes, not broad. Don't want to be in the lecturing mode. They don't work. We have to be very conscious of the emotional quotient and say, okay, now you're not well. What is the problem like? Is there anything that you want to discuss with me? I don't want to give an advice which you don't want. If you want to share with me, just tell me what is your problem. I may not have a solution, but the thing is that, okay, somebody is concerned. The parents will tell, like, you should study hard. Somebody else will say, okay, you should stand first. Somebody else will say you should get merit seat. Somebody else will say you should get a starting salary of 10 lakh per year at least, otherwise it's a shame. But nobody talks about the agony that the student is going through, a teenager is going through. Nobody, in the sense, very few people. They're all having a quantified objective rather than the emotional objective. So if you're able to connect with the students, that itself is a great gain. Another thing, getting back to the hospital selling the junk food or the apple juice, which doesn't have a single apple. Now, you see, in the campus, at least there is a control. The trust or the managers, the management can say, okay, whatever is sold in the campus should be healthy. How to measure the health of a food? There is a standard, there is a tool available. It is called NOVA, N-O-V-A. So which can be used. We can also write programs for that. Okay, health of each item that is sold within the campus, how harmful, how good it is. Simple it is. And time to time, we can bring about while teaching in the course itself, as a byproduct of that, the health consciousness can come. For example, let us say, right from the small class, I said, okay, here is a packet of chips. What are its ingredients? What is processed for the sake of adding value? What is processed for the sake of increasing the shelf life? What is added to increase the taste, which can be harmful, like the sugar and salt, or anything that can last longer, that is more harmful, because there is something done, something which should, entropy should set in automatically as a nature. If that is blocked, there is something unnatural, it is bad. So this, in the passing, in some context, will this again TPV, teaching point of view, will be able to bring that while teaching multiple subjects. If I'm teaching ML, okay, I will analyze as a project. If this is the thing that I want to see, I will analyze the thing. Okay, I told about the taking information about the students. I can tell, okay, when I was young, in my class, there is not a single person who had reading glasses. Look at your class, 50% of you got myopia. Why does it happen? What could it be? Okay, let us consider about the weight, obesity. I'm telling how to obesity, but in the meantime, I'm also communicating to the student, okay, what all the effects of obesity can be there. So in the passing, telling without telling, nudging, because if you point a finger, it is right. They will resist it. But in the mind of mind, without openly accepting, if it sinks in, it is not a total solution, but it will be a path towards improvement. The best thing that works is accept failures, encourage failures. Say, okay, this is a gift. You don't understand the meaning? Beautiful. It is a gift that you have brought in. Never, never look down upon a student who doesn't know the answer. That itself connects to a great extent. Encouraging them, because learning is the objective, not the scores.
Excellent, sir. Okay.